Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
That's a terrible drum roll. Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. It is the OG Hour. Patrick Allen here with you. Matt Verderame is late. He's got a good reason. He texted me, told me he's on the phone with General Mills about trying to get Count Chocula made in, available in stores year round. So that's an important thing to be late for. He's going to be joining us in just a moment. And it's been a minute since I've been with you guys. Obviously, we had no show last week. Fansided had an off-site last week in Phoenix, Arizona. So I was down there for that, and I was traveling back home on Thursday. Wasn't able to do the podcast from 30,000 feet or however high planes fly these days. But Verderame is here, and he's going to be with us in just a minute. I'm excited to find out. Okay, man, I told them you were on the phone with General Mills trying to get Count Chocula made year round. How did it go?
I wish I was on the phone. That would be great. I was on the phone with imaging to get another MRI, which is just a never-ending cycle of hell. But it would have been great. I wish that was the case. I would love for Count Chocula to be year-round so I could just be fatter. Yeah. But unfortunately, I don't have that kind of power. Not yet.
Yeah, we'll have to keep working on that. We've been talking about it for years now. Eventually, somebody's going to send them a clip, and they're gonna get their heads right. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. At any rate, welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Patrick Allen from Fansided, Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated. Lots of Chiefs talk to get to, but one thing I just want to preview for the audience that's watching live on YouTube, by the way, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, is at the end of the show here, we often do Patty's Power Rankings. We rank food, we do Chief stuff. This one I'm really excited for, Verderame, and I want to let you know early on so you can start thinking about it. We're going to rank the 3 Chiefs we'd want on our side if we found ourselves in a bar fight. A lot of really good options. We're going to go current Chiefs. I thought about opening up to all time, but I mean, then you get all kinds of, maybe we can do that another time. But you and the audience start thinking about it too. Hold off on throwing it in the chat. We're going to want to read some of these. We want to know your 3 guys, your reasoning. It should be a lot of fun. But I mean, there were a few guys that jumped into my head as soon as I thought of this idea that I was like, oh yeah, please. I'll be all right if I'm in a bar fight with these guys.
Yeah. All right. There's a few guys who immediately came to mind.
Yeah, indeed. All right, everybody. Again, you're watching the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Make sure you head on over to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review, 5 stars over there. If you leave us a question, we'll answer it here on the show. And we got a great show coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about the draft, some of the departures and arrivals that the Chiefs have had this offseason. And then we're going to take some listener questions as well as some questions from our members. But let's get into it, Verderame. So I just wanted to touch on some of the recent signings and departures. It's been a minute since we've been on together. Mike Edwards came back to Kansas City, I believe, on the 3rd. Going to be back in the secondary. Obviously, probably not the same Mike Edwards we remember during his first stint in Kansas City. But what was your take on that signing?
I mean, I don't know how much different he's going to be. He's 29. He was 27 then. He played. I don't think people remember. Like, he played almost every snap down the stretch of the season because Brian Cook got hurt. Played starter snaps. He had a pick in the Miami game. He got hurt in the beginning of the Bills game, and he missed that game after like two or three snaps. But he played every snap, I believe it was, of the AFC title game. I think he played all but 1 or 2 of them in the Super Bowl. I think it's a great move. I thought he was good when he was with the Chiefs. Last year, it didn't work out with the Bills for whatever reason. But when he went to Tampa at the end of last season, he played. He played quite a bit. He played 80 some odd % of the snaps, I believe it was in the playoffs. I think if that guy's your third safety, that's a pretty damn good signing. I thought in Kansas City he did a nice job. And I think Spagsly did a nice job based on how many snaps he played throughout the course of that year, especially toward the end.
Yeah, guys are going to play different in different systems. There's a reason they like to bring some of these guys back. There's a trust issue, right? They have trust with these players. They believe that they can do what they want. And that's really important, especially to Steve Spagnuolo. Any coach, but especially Steve Spagnuolo. We see the loyalty that he has to, like, look, and this isn't a knock on Nick Bolton, but would Nick Bolton have gotten the same contract from other teams, from other defensive coordinators that he got in Kansas City? I don't know. I think that's up for debate.
I think that he would have gotten paid from other teams. I also think his value to the Chiefs is different because of the way Steve Spagnuolo values him. Now, you can argue whether he should or he shouldn't. That's fine. That's another conversation. But I think that the Chiefs value Nick Bolton immensely, and a lot of that is based off of how Steve Spagnuolo views his football IQ, his intellect, his ability to get them set up in the right positions. That's a big thing with them, offensively and defensively, honestly, because of how complex what they do is. So, yeah, I think Bolton has more value to them than they might some other team.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so another signing. This one didn't make very many waves, and rightfully so. But the Chiefs added defensive end Janarius Robinson, I think on April 4th, kind of bolstering the defensive line a little bit. I think he's got like 2 career sacks. I think he was drafted by Minnesota, played with the Raiders. Not really, hasn't been an impact player, has dealt with some injuries. Is this just a flyer guy heading into camp?
He's what we call a guy.
Yeah. I
mean, I'm not. If I gave 20 seconds of analysis, it'd be 20 seconds too many.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, I do not expect that he's going to have any impact on the 2025 Chiefs.
Yeah, you look, and you never know. Sometimes guys are late bloomers. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's no chance that he does anything. He's excited about the opportunity. He gave an interesting interview with the team, talked about how he seems to understand. I don't have any direct quotes from him, but basically the recap of it is that he seems to understand where he is in the NFL right now, that he's got to prove himself that he belongs in the NFL. He's excited that the Chiefs are giving him that opportunity. When you're a guy like this that's been on a couple teams and hasn't really made an impact, that's really all you can hope for is one more opportunity. Still young, so we'll see. Maybe he can work himself in there as a rotational guy if he picks things up. But these are the kinds of moves I think that right now, I don't know how many more moves we'll see as we get closer to the draft. I'm frankly was a little bit surprised that these ones got done. Felt like we were at the go ahead and wait and see who you get in the draft and then scoop some of these guys up. But I guess Brett Veach with some of these signings, especially one like this, why not do it now, I guess, if you're interested.
Look, I think this is a time of year where you're going to go out and you're going to fill out your 90-man roster. I mean, that's what they're doing. So to me, I don't get too worked up about any of these, tiny little signings here and there. I mean, they're going to bring in a lot of guys. They brought in Robert Tonyan at tight end. Is Robert Tonyan going to play one snap for the Chiefs this year? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like, they got to go to camp with 90, and then they got to cut it down to 53. Like, they're not going to camp with 53.
Yeah.
So, it's, to me, like, every once in a while, some guy breaks through, and, but like for the most part, these guys are who they are for a reason. They're signed for what they're signed for a reason. I just don't think this is going to, anything here is really going to be groundbreaking. I would be very surprised.
Yeah. Let's dive into some of the departures from the Chiefs. I can't remember if we talked about this one the last time we were on, but Justin Watson, who's been hanging around, has been a good player for the Chiefs for what he was. Came up big for them in some moments. He departs this year, lands with the Houston Texans. No more Justin Watson. Is that a guy you would have liked to have come? Like, are you surprised they brought Juju back over a guy like Watson, who's really arguably been, at least this last go around, a little bit more productive?
Honestly, I wish they would have let both of them walk. Just like, what does Juju do for them that you're like they need to have him? I don't know. I mean, I get it. You know, you get the whole, well, he's a veteran. Yeah, sure, fine. There's a lot of guys who are veterans. I mean, I understand he's not getting paid anything, but again, like you had Juju Smith-Schuster on the team last year. He played 14 games. He had 231 yards.
And half of them came in one game.
I was just saying, the base is all against New Orleans. Yeah, I mean, he did nothing last season outside of that game against New Orleans. He had the only other game he really did anything was the game against Buffalo in the playoffs. He had 60 yards receiving. But
Right.
if you look at his numbers for the Chiefs last year, yeah, he missed 3 games with an injury. Other than that, his yardage totals were 0, 0, 17, 0, 130, 0, 8, 6, 10, 31, 7, 0, 18, 4, 0, 60, 16.
Yeah.
I just, like, I don't know. They couldn't have done better. And like Justin Watson, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, quite honestly, I'm glad they let him walk. Like, I've seen Justin Watson for years, and Justin Watson has been fine as a depth guy, but like, move on, get somebody new. You know, I'd like to see them add a receiver the first 2 days of this draft. I think they should. I think they should get new blood in there. Because if you look going forward, who's signed long term? Nobody. It's Worthy and it's Rice, and everybody else is free agent after this year. So I think you've got to add some new blood.
I'm with you on that. When you look at this wide receiver core, it's not especially inspiring after your top 3 guys there in Brown, Rice, and Worthy. You got Juju, fine. Sky Moore, very strong argument, shouldn't even be on the team. Justin Ross, same thing, shouldn't really be on the team. Tyquan Thornton, like complete and utter camp body and flyer. Can he turn into something? Maybe. Jason Brownlee and Nico Remigio. So like Remigio is a guy you can see because of the special teams thing. Okay, maybe he hangs on the roster, but the rest of those guys, they're all cut candidates, in my opinion. Even Juju, like these are guys if you can replace them, you should absolutely. And you're right, the Chiefs need to look at this position early in the draft, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But there was a report on ESPN, an insider article from Jordan Reed, and he basically said that what the skinny is that the Chiefs will be looking early in the draft to add to their offensive arsenal. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean weapons. It could mean, obviously they've got issues on the offensive line that they might want to bolster if that presents itself to them. Tight end behind Travis Kelce. There's no real. Do you want Noah Gray to be your successor from a pass catching standpoint? I mean, he's fine, but it's a whole different story when you're the number 1 guy. So the Chiefs have some work to do. And he also mentioned in the article that they'd probably be considering a running back on day 3. So I thought that was an interesting nugget because he's talking about bolstering the offense early, running back day 3. There should be a lot of value there. So now that sort of narrows down the positions you think they might be looking at early in this draft.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think right now the only real need they have, like they've got to draft it, is a defensive tackle. And other than that, I mean, we can get into, okay, they really should add a running back day 2. I think they should add a receiver day 2. Yeah, we could certainly talk about depth in certain areas. But like realistically speaking, it's not like you look at them and go, man, they've got a lot of areas that they've got to really fill out. Like when you look at them, other than a defensive tackle and a running back, who's seeing serious snaps on this team without a bunch of injuries in front of them? I have no idea who that would be. If we want to talk about the edge rushers, let's talk about them. Like I have no problem with them drafting an edge rusher. That guy's not playing this year. They've got Karlaftis and Amenahu and Dana and FAU. Like that guy's not playing. At linebacker, they're 3 deep. They're not playing. Corner, they're 3 deep. Safety, 3 deep. Like again, I'm not saying don't draft any of those positions. You got to draft somewhere. I know there's like the one big thing out there that's driven me just out of my mind is this idea that they have to draft a tackle in the first round, and I just do not understand. Like, first of all, just from talking to people that would know, I do not think that the Chiefs nor any other team that I've spoken with values the tackles in this class is very high. They're not good. The tackles in this class have T-Rex arms, most of them. They do. Like most teams will tell you, if you're going to be a tackle, the absolute bare minimum arm length they want is 33 inches, and most teams prefer 34 and above. Like, I do not see the Chiefs rushing to the podium at 31 to take Josh Simmons, who everybody seems to be mocking them, when Josh Simmons is 33-inch arms, which is the shorter than any tackle they would have taken during Brett Veach's tenure in Kansas City. He then is going to sit for at least a year, okay? Because Jalen Moore got paid real money. They're not sitting Jalen Moore to start Josh Simmons. Like, that's not going to happen unless Jalen Moore is an absolute total disaster. Jawan Taylor's making $27 million this year. I just don't think they're going to sit that guy. Now, listen, after this year, I think he's gone. But are they going to sit him? Probably not. And that's kind of where I get into this. Like, I understand why the national guy looks at them and says that. But even though I'm a national guy, obviously I'm pretty in tune with this team. I would be very surprised if they take a tackle in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised if they take a tackle in the draft in general. I would be very surprised if at 31 they take an offensive tackle. I just do not think that's going to happen.
Do you ever think the arm thing is a little overblown? Like, the difference between like 33 and a half and 34, like this is the tip of my finger. So this is from this line on your finger. That's an inch, your index finger. Is it a little bit overblown? They're like, that's the difference between a good NFL tackle and a bad NFL tackle.
I mean, you know what? In the normal, first of all, I mean, maybe, depending on the player.
Yeah.
But also, like, think about, I mean, we're talking about pro sports. You know, you shoot a slap shot in hockey, it's a half inch one way or the other. That's the difference between that guy stopping the puck or going in. I mean, that's the margin. I mean, think about playing baseball at that level, right? Like, a half inch is, if you miss your location, you know, maybe not by a half inch in baseball, by 2 inches, you're dead. That ball's a rocket somewhere. So no, I get your point. So when I was down in the Breakers at Palm Beach, I talked to a bunch of different people. I talked to one head coach at pretty good length off the record, who said, look, if you have shorter arms, you can play tackle, but then you've got to have a great first and second punch. You've got to have great footwork. In other words, his basic point was, your margin for error is nothing if you've got 32 and 3/4 inch arms. You just don't have any, any ability to miss a punch or to be slow off the line. Now, I talked to Sean McVay about this, and Sean McVay said, hey, listen, film matters first. Does it, it is part of the evaluation, but film is number one. And he made the point, he's like, I had a guy with pretty short arms on the defensive line who ended up having a good career. And that was Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's arms were 32 and I think 3/8. Now, that being said, Aaron Donald played inside. But point was made. I just think if you're the Chiefs, like Josh Simmons is and I'm only picking him because I've seen so many people mock him for the Chiefs. I get it. I will be the first one to sit here if they take an offensive tackle and throw my hands up in the air and say, I am very, very surprised, because everything I know tells me that is highly unlikely that they're going to take a tackle in the first round. I just do not think that's coming. I also just think in the case of Simmons in particular, look, his talent level's terrific. He's coming off a torn patella, which is a real injury, even for a younger player. And then there are, and some of this has been written out there. I believe it was Bob McGinn, to try to give him credit of Go Long, who wrote there were some, red flags in terms of his, I guess the right word would be commitment. I talked to some people down at the Breakers who echoed those sentiments. So, now listen, one team's red flag is another team's misunderstanding. I mean, none of this is anything horrible. It's not like he's got a bunch of stuff going on, like legally, but you got to be comfortable with the player, and that's always true. But when there's supposed red flags out there, I think that's even more true. So for the Chiefs, look, they got options. I just think defensive tackle is by a wide margin their biggest need right now.
And it's a deep draft at defensive tackle. I think you're probably right. I think even maybe if a guy like Simmons fell to the Chiefs, which he may not, because there isn't a lot of top end tackle talent. No. If he were to fall to them, then they have to look at their board and balance need versus who they have on their board. And if there's a really good defensive tackle, they have graded much higher. I'm with you. I think they're probably going to take him. And then what you're going to see is later in the draft, there are guys in this draft, there are a lot of tackles who are going to go in later rounds who have the measurables and athleticism that you look for, but they just don't have the technique yet. They're not ready. Well, if you're Kansas City, you have a plan. You hope that it works. So you have some luxury to maybe take one of those guys and see what you can turn them into if you could coach them up.
I almost think you're better off if you're going to take a tackle in the draft. Take a guy, like day 2 or early day 3, like the 4th round pick. And take that guy. I just think that makes the most sense rather than we're going to just force this thing and take a guy in the 1st round, even though he's not the guy. I mean, like if you take whoever, let's not even say Simmons. Like we're taking Josh Connerly Jr. What are you thinking? The 5th or 6th best tackle in the class that nobody thinks is any good?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it doesn't mean you're wrong. Maybe the guy turns out to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but you, like, in that case, you better be right. Like that would be the thing. Like, to me, then at that point, if you're going to do that, then you have to be right. Because if you're wrong, that's a disaster. Because then you look back and go, geez, everybody knew we were wrong. We still did it.
Yeah. You could just go the Madden route and just take all tackles with all your picks, find out what their ratings are when you get them to camp. Speaking of the draft, let's just do a quick overview of the picks that the Chiefs have. They've got number 31 overall in round 1 and in round 2, number 63 overall. The where it gets interesting here is in round 3, because of the L'Jarius Sneed trade and because the Titans stunk. The Chiefs have the 66th overall pick in round 3, and then they have their pick over at 95. So they pick 63 and 66, which gives them a good bit of flexibility there. If there's a couple guys they like, if they don't think somebody's going to go, they're able to make some maybe bold decisions there. And then in round 4, 133 overall. And after that, it's round 7, baby. No 5th, no 6th. They get 226 overall, 251 overall, which is a compensatory pick, and Mr. Irrelevant, number 257. So what you already mentioned, defensive interior. What do you think of the top 3 positions Brett Veach should be targeting in this draft?
I think other than the tackle, look, I think after that, I think running back. Running back to me is the next one. They need some explosiveness. And Pacheco at this point, let's be real, he's here for 1 more year. I just don't see any world where they're tagging him or he's coming back on a long-term contract. Unless he just has an unbelievable season and it's like, well, they have no choice. But I think, this is a loaded class at running back. I know you're an Ohio State guy. I'd be honest with you. I'd be thrilled to death if they took either one of those guys. I think Judkins, personally, I would take that kid in the 2nd round. I wouldn't even think about it. If he's there at 63, I would take Quishon Judkins and move on. But so D tackle, running back, and then after that, then I think it gets more interesting. Look, if I had my druthers, if the board was completely even, I'd take a receiver. They've been pretty good at nailing the receiver picks. I know Sky Moore didn't work out, but like Rice, Worthy, like I would do that. I think you could make an argument after running back and D tackle. You could certainly make an argument even for a corner. You can never have enough. Watson's in his final year. McDuffie's a slot guy. So, like, if you drafted another guy, he's a first perimeter guy off the bench. And right now, that's Joshua Williams or Najee Johnson. Like, you're 1 pulled hamstring away from that same disaster scenario presenting itself. I wouldn't draft a linebacker, really. I just think, like, they only play 2 at a time anyway, and they have 3 of them, and they're fine. And then, you can always draft an edge rusher. Always do that. But, yeah, I guess if I had to say 3 biggest needs other than D tackle, I'd go running back, I'd go receiver, and I'd go with the corner just because I believe in taking corners in every draft.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on running back and receiver. I just think that they have to just continue to invest in this offense to give Patrick Mahomes weapons so that you don't have what happened last year where you have an injury to one guy and you're stuck with it. But like now they've really got some nice depth. If you keep adding to that, then you just have that conveyor belt of guys for Mahomes going. So if something were to happen to Xavier Worthy, maybe you have a young rookie that can help you later in the season if everybody else stays healthy, along with the way that you view the cornerback position. Just keep offensive talent coming through the door for Mahomes, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Just just keep them coming, because I don't want to be sitting there throwing up in my mouth watching them try to throw to Juju Smith-Schuster and Watson and, these guys that they're getting off the scrap heap anymore. So just keep the young talent going. I think that's important. I will say, I do think they should consider linebacker. There's some guys in this class, not early because they don't need it, but I think if they could find a guy with athleticism that they think might be able to cover a little bit, that they can rotate in, and they see some good value, like maybe in round 4, round 7, there's guys like that that are maybe really good at one thing, play special teams. Like that might be a nice pickup for them, since they've had a little bit of trouble in coverage at the linebacker position. Here's an interesting one. Jeremy says in the chat, I think he's referring to Judkins, that he won't be there in the second round. You could take him at 31. I'm not so sure about that. It's an interesting draft, and that everybody knows there's a lot of running backs, and nobody wants to pay a running back a lot of money, especially if a first round, they can get value. So it becomes one of those propositions where does it become a game of chicken with the running backs, where teams are like, there's a lot of good, like I have 5 guys here, I got around the same grade on them, I'm going to wait in the first round. And they get their second round pick and they're like, man, there's still like 4 of these guys left. I think we're going to hold off a little longer. We really like this. Does that push somebody into a spot where the Chiefs at the end of the second round get somebody you didn't expect to be there just because of the depth, and then you have a run that starts in the third round? It's possible.
I think a lot of times when you have a deep class at a position, and certainly that's the case with running back, D tackle, tight end, you're always kind of playing the waiting game a little bit, as you put it, the game of chicken, because you're kind of sitting there going, all right, like, when does the run start? And how long do you think it goes on for? Like, if you're the Chiefs and you don't take it back at 31 and you're sitting there, you've got pick, 63 and 66. Let's say that run starts at pick 40. Do you then go, all right, we got to get up. We got to get up to pick, 50. We got to get there. Now, that is where the art of the draft really does kind of play out, because Brett Veach has moved around quite a bit over the years. There's a lot of different charts out there. I think the Rich Hill chart, which is over on Draft Tech, which is a great site for this stuff, I think it's pretty good. So if you look at Kansas City, every pick is assigned a numerical value. And in this chart, the Rich Hill chart, which is different than the Jimmy Johnson chart, but the same kind of idea. So pick 63 is worth 82 points. Pick 66 is worth 76, so on and so forth. If they wanted to get from 63 to 50, so if Seattle's at 50, and it would be a difference of 33 points. Kansas City could give up like their own third round pick and then also get back a fifth rounder, literally the next to last pick in the round, the comp pick from Seattle. So like the Chiefs would go, all right, we'll swap 2s. You get our pick at number 95. We get your pick at number 175. Now, that's a move. That's a significant move up. Maybe you don't move quite as far. Maybe you move up to, I don't know, well, what the hell? Buffalo loves to trade with the Chiefs. Maybe you move up to 56 and you give them your 4th rounder. So, I mean, and you can always do future picks, things like that. I think for the Chiefs, you've got to kind of identify when the run starts. And then also, like, if it starts, how far into that run is it going to be before your guy goes off the board? That is a big part of this, too. So there's a lot to factor in. But I think if you're the Chiefs, you could be in good position to get one of those backs in the second round because there's so many of them. I just finished writing a piece for SI that hasn't gone up yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's 8 running backs go in the first 3 rounds of the draft, like maybe even 10. There's going to be a lot of them, and it's just a matter of positioning yourself so that you don't get left out in the cold.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. The Chiefs have a little bit of ammo there with those 2 third-round picks. Even if they wanted to move up in the first round, obviously that would mean they're giving away their pick there at 31. But I've been having success in the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator, playing around. How far can I move up? And I'm getting deals accepted, even using the second of those third-round picks, depending on how far you want to move up. So, it's never a guarantee. Some teams might not want to trade with the Chiefs, but if they don't like who's there, and this often happens, especially in classes where you have a couple of deep positions, and say you're a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or something drafting at 19, and you're like, there's like 4 defensive interior guys that we like, and Kansas City has a guy they really want to move up for. We'll move back to 31 and take an extra 3rd round pick. That'd be great. So what worries me about them doing that, moving up in this draft, is the lack of, they don't have a 5th, they don't have a 6th. So, you lose one of those 3rds and you're only getting 3 players. It'd be nice if they can if they nailed their 1st, 2nd, and both 3rds, got really usable players, a couple starters, would be a great draft for them.
I think based on what the Chiefs roster looks like right now, I mean, if they get 3 guys that contribute in any meaningful way to them this year, that's awesome. Because I think there's only really space for 2 of them. I mean, honestly, D tackle, running back, and then what? Maybe a receiver, maybe a corner as a depth guy, maybe I don't know. I couldn't even tell you. I mean, maybe an edge rusher. They've gone to 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. The roster's pretty good. So it's not like you're the Cardinals who could take 7 guys and 6 of them could play right now. I remember years ago with this team, and for younger fans, this may have literally almost sound impossible. I remember the year the Chiefs took Eric Berry, which was 2010. I remember thinking throughout that draft, God, they could take anybody. They could take anybody. And that was also true. It was actually especially true the year they took Jamal Charles. I think it was 2008. And that's actually a draft I was thinking of, where every pick, I was like, anybody on the board available. They were so bad. They were so bad. They're anybody. And that was the year they took Charles, Brandon Albert, Brandon Flowers, Brandon Carr, Brandon everybody.
Yeah.
A lot of Brandons. But man, I mean, they, honestly, back then they were so brutal. You're anybody, take anybody. That is obviously not the case now. This team, I mean, I always hear the best player available stuff, and I get it, but let's be real here. Who cares? Who really thinks that that's the case? They can't just take the best player available. Half those guys don't ever play. So, it's the best player available within a certain positional range.
Well, it looks like some breaking news here. The wide receiver position may get a little bit thinner in this draft.
Yeah, I saw that.
Isaiah Bond, wide receiver out of Texas, has turned himself into Frisco, Texas police last night for a matter related to an outstanding warrant on sexual assault per rap sheet. This is, of course, all alleged. That's all we know, but not, that's not good news for the wide receiver pool. And of course, not good for Mr. Bond and the alleged victim, if that's indeed what happened.
He put out a statement, which I'm trying to find right now. I saw it while we were talking earlier. He did put out a statement that just said that that he liked the time to defend himself and that it's all patently false. I don't have it right in front of me, but I do remember that was that was a couple other things that he said. Look, it's, to me, okay, so here, let's see. Is this it? No, this is the main thing. Sorry, I'm just trying to find this because it's important. Okay, here we go. Statement from Isaiah Bond from Ian Rappaport. Quote, regarding the accusation made against me, I would appreciate the time and opportunity to defend myself and prove the claims made patently false. I am in full cooperation with the authorities and will remain a willing and active participant in the investigation. Unfortunately, claims like these proved to be harmful to all involved, absent full review. I kindly request that all reserve judgment until the authorities provide a complete report based on truth and evidence. And yes, that is in response to him turning himself into Frisco police down in Texas on Thursday morning related to an outstanding warrant for sexual assault. He has posted bond and has been released. So, listen, I mean, I have no idea what's true, what's not, etc. But here's the reality of this. There are people that thought he might go in the first round. I'm going to go ahead and guess, unless something massively changes and he is exonerated immediately, that's probably not going to happen now. So that'll be.
You may not get drafted at all from look, we're here to talk football. This is not the most important thing when something like this, the truth is what is the most important. But we're here talking about football. How does this impact the draft? he may not get drafted at all because, as you said, unless something similar to the Xavier Worthy situation where charges get dropped immediately, and it's teams. These are very important picks for these teams, and even later in the draft, it's a little bit of a gamble when you don't know someone's future and whether or not they're actually going to be able to contribute. So this could be a situation where he goes undrafted until there's some sort of resolution. So something to keep an eye on if you're a Texas fan or a draft guy. All right. So speaking of legal issues, Rashee Rice, have you heard anything about his legal situation? It's been all silent for me as well. It's a little bit frustrating from a Chiefs fan standpoint because if there is no legal resolution this summer, then he's going to start the season on the roster, which is good for early in the season. But eventually this thing's going to get decided, and then the NFL is going to hand down punishment. And that could be at an inopportune time for the Chiefs. You'd rather him start on, a suspension than have it happen in the playoffs.
I got to tell you though, man. I mean, if he doesn't get suspended to start the season, they could do it in the middle of the year. My guess is they'd probably wait. And and you also start to wonder too, if he doesn't get suspended this year, does he ever get suspended? I mean, does it ever happen? Is it just one of these things that kind of just drags on and on and on? And the NFL's like, look, again, this isn't the prettiest thing to say about a situation like that, but from the NFL perspective, is it better to just say, let sleeping dogs lie and just move on? I mean, I just don't know. Like, are you going to wait 3 years? I mean, obviously, thank God nobody got killed in it, which they could have. He could have killed a whole family's worth of people. He didn't. I don't know. Now, look, I mean, to my knowledge, nothing's happened as far as the legal system goes with his situation. He was charged with 8 felonies. That was almost exactly a year ago now. And, the wheels of justice turn slowly. My expectation is that he will eventually be suspended. How long is that? It's hard to say with the NFL. It could be a couple games. It could be 6 games. I think that's a fair range. I will say this. I do not see a scenario where he's playing and playing and playing. In week 14, they suspend him for the playoffs. They're not going to do that because the NFL selfishly is not going to want that hanging over the playoffs. They're not. At that point, they're just going to ride that puppy out. Now, look, if something happens week 3, could they suspend him? Yes. But I think there comes a certain point in the year, maybe let's say around November, where at that juncture, I wonder if the NFL would just say, look, either we don't do anything or we take action the following year. Because I don't think, if the Chiefs are 9-2 and rolling and they're in a million primetime games, the NFL does not want Al Michaels or Mike Tirico or Jim Nantz or Joe Buck coming into a game and being like, hey, listen, welcome to the game. Rashee Rice is suspended because he went 100 whatever it was miles per hour down in Texas a year ago. They don't want that. So I think they would wait it out.
It's all about timing. So we'll just have to keep watching it. But he has been cleared to run routes, to run his route tree. So he's going to be ready. He's going to be there in camp, and he'll be ready for the start of the season, which is good news if you watched the offense there towards the end of the year. All right. Let's get to some member and listener questions. I want to get to some of our members first. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast, it's a great community. Check out the link in the description below. You can join our private Discord, be part of our fantasy football league this year, member events, all that fun stuff. It's a great way to support us and the work that we do here. And sometimes you get special things like this, like you get your questions answered on the show. Our guy, Jeremy Kennedy, longtime member, says, who are your favorite current players who are not Chiefs or former Chiefs at each position, or a shortened version? So one offense, one defense. We're going to do that. We're not going to do every single position. They don't have to be the best player or even great, but guys in your head that you want to root for as long as they're not playing the Chiefs. Could be attitude, swagger, greatness, personality, or just because you like their names. So give me one offense, one defense, Verderame.
I'll be honest. Defensively, it's easy. I love watching Max Crosby. I love watching the guy. I know Chiefs fans are like, oh my God, the Raiders. Look, I love watching him. The guy's all out every play on a team that is going nowhere most years.
Yeah.
Aiden Hutchinson's another guy I would toss in there. But Crosby he plays so hard every snap. I love his attitude. I love his hustle, his talent. He's an amazing player. Offensively, God, there's a lot. I mean, look, obviously there's some skill position players. I mean, Justin Jefferson is incredible to watch. He'd be way up there. I'm trying to think of like somebody who's off the board a little bit who I'd be like, oh, that guy. I mean, look, Josh Allen's a lot of fun to watch as quarterback, man. I mean, that guy, like, I get it when you're playing against him, it drives you out of your mind, unless it's in the playoffs against the Chiefs, and fine. But like Allen is to me, if I could include the Chiefs, Mahomes is my favorite player to watch in football. Like, not even because I grew up Chiefs, like just he's you never know what he's going to do from a play-to-play basis. Yeah. Allen would be second. Allen is that much fun to me. I love watching the guy. He's a great fun. A great watch. A lot of fun.
Good list. Yeah, I'm gonna go with another Raider. Unfortunately, Geno Smith. As far as guys that I liked, man, you see so many guys come in and they get swallowed up by the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets, and they never emerge again. For him to do what he's done, he's just been one of my favorite stories over the years. Going and resurrecting his career in Seattle, being patient, continuing to get better. And then he goes and he gets this big deal from the Raiders, and good for him. I hope it goes terribly for him, but I'm happy. And he's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. And it's just a really cool story. I'm trying to think if there's a defender that I really like playing. You know what? I'm going to go with another offensive player. I'm going to go with David Montgomery from the Lions.
He's a lot of fun to watch. Yep.
He's a lot. That whole offense is fun to watch, and he's a really nice. Him and Gibbs are a really nice combo to watch. But he's another guy that I think people don't think was going to be quite as good as he is, and he would get written off a lot because he wasn't fast enough and all that stuff. Man, sure don't look like it on Sundays. I'll tell you what, he's a great player. He's fun to watch. He plays hard. He came back from that injury that he should have ended his season and tried to contribute for the playoffs. So he's a pretty cool guy to root for as well.
I'm shocked defensively he didn't go as Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett is a fun, especially when he's swinging helmets at Steelers plays. Mason Rudolph, the most likable guy in the NFL, Mason Rudolph. Let's get to another question here from another one of our members. Albert says, not that you could get him or pay him, but what would you give up for TJ Watt? Chiefs could get TJ Watt for this season right now. What would you give up? If it was like just for this year, you don't have to worry about the future. Like what would you give up for him?
I would give up. I just think he's 30 years old. 1 year deal. I would say the Titans pick. They're 63. I give up 63.
Hey Patrick.
Hi Maisie, how are you? Good to see you.
Good.
Thanks for dropping in on the podcast, Matt Verderame. For our audio listeners, Matt Verderame's daughter Maisie is here.
You excited about the NFL draft? Chiefs getting new players?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I know.
So I'm just gonna say.
Sure. Yeah. All right, you wave bye to the people.
Bye, my followers.
Yeah.
Bye, Maisie. She's half the reason they're here, Verderame.
Should be the whole reason.
I'm with you. I would give up a third for him. Maybe, you know what? I'd give up a second for that kind of impact on the pass rush. I think it would really help this defense. And it's basically a third round pick, the Chiefs' second round pick anyway. Yeah. So I could live with that. Maybe get a couple years out of him at that level. It'd be all right.
I gotta say, I wrote a whole piece right after they lost to Baltimore on that side. Like, I think they should have traded him and Pickens this offseason. I just, to me, and where are they going? Where are they going? Even if they sign Rodgers, what are they going to do? Losing the wild card round? Like maybe win a playoff game? I don't know. I mean, I would have gotten some value for him and Pickens, but they didn't want to do that, and see how it plays out for them.
Yeah, you know what they ought to do is trade Pickens, trade Watt, and trade Mike Tomlin, acquire a bunch of assets for not this year's draft, but the following year's draft, and then hire Josh McDaniels for a year. And you're good to go.
That is one way to bottom out.
Yep. But they just won't do it in Pittsburgh. They're just, I admire it. I mean, I admire how much they win and their consistency. And I love Mike Tomlin and all that stuff. But like, they've been doing it for a while now. Like you're going nowhere until you've got a quarterback. You're going nowhere. But they just keep trying. Like let's sign these defense. Let's trade for first round picks for defensive guys and stuff. And I'm just like, but you're not winning. Like it's like the Browns, right? I don't understand. It's like if they're picking second, right? If they believe in one of these quarterbacks, I don't care who's there defensively. They're not winning anything without a quarterback. So you might as well, how far have they gotten with Myles Garrett? How many teams have we seen, the Texans with JJ Watt? Like you have these great players, Hall of Famers. The Chiefs had Jared Allen. We stunk. The Chiefs had Tony Gonzalez. We stunk. Like we weren't going anywhere. So I know you want to get value, but like if you've got a shot and you even believe halfway that one of those quarterbacks is a potential franchise quarterback, you just got to take it. And that's the Steelers. The Steelers are just going to try to take good players and keep winning. And, it was Big Ben that got him to the Super Bowl all those years over and over and over again.
To me, if you're not competing for a Super Bowl, what's the point?
Right.
What is the point? Like the Steelers, you're not better than Baltimore. You're not better than Kansas. You're not better than Buffalo. Like I don't understand what the long game is with that. It just feels like at some juncture you got to just say, all right, you know what? It's probably time to reevaluate where we're sitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Question from our guy Stacy Smith, staff writer at Arrowhead Addict as well. More likely scenario for this draft: an early trade up or an early trade down?
Down, because I think that is certainly where most of these teams are looking. I think they're trying to trade down.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to find too many teams that are going to try to trade up in this draft. If you want to trade up, you're not going to have any problem doing it. Trading down, you might find it very difficult to find a dance partner. I just don't. Now, the Chiefs are an interesting spot because some team might trade up to get a fifth-year option on the guy. But I think it's going to be very difficult to trade down. It's a draft that you want more bites at the apple rather than just one big swing. Because really, there's not a lot of big-time star players in this draft, but there might be quite a few guys who are worthy starters in the draft.
It's only if there's a team, I think, that wants that fifth-year option on a guy and they can get it from the Chiefs or the Eagles cheap, that they're in a good spot there right at the very end of the back of the first round. Alan F says in the chat per our previous conversation, how good is Cleveland's D-line going to be if they take Abdul Carter? Yeah, they're going to be incredible. It's going to be awesome watching them lose 10-7 in the playoffs because they can't score. I mean, that'd be from a football standpoint. I'd love to watch that defense with those pass rushers, but yeah, man, it's you're not getting it done with their offense.
No, you're not.
Yeah. All right. Last question here from Z-Man on Twitter says, how many roster spots do we think are open at this moment? Is it 2, Verderame? 2 or 3?
Oh, God. I mean, for the whole team or for the starting lineup?
I mean, for the whole team, it's going to be more, right? Like they're going to keep some of these rookies.
Yeah.
So for the starting lineup, is there somebody that could crack it?
I think the only starting lineup position that's open is D tackle. That's it. I mean, you want to argue running back, but that's going to be by committee. Like, I don't know that that's really like that counts. It's going to be D tackle next to Jones. I think it's it. As far as like the entirety of the roster, I haven't thought about it for 2 seconds, honestly. I would put 8 to 10 spots, something like that. But I'd have to think about it. Maybe it's a half dozen, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. All right. So we teased it and we're here. Patty's Power Rankings. 3 Chiefs you'd want with you in a bar fight. Your top 3, they don't necessarily have to be in order from, least to best, but I'll kick us off this time because I always let you go first. Give me Leo Chenal. He's a guy that, man, you see what he does to people on the football field. Rock solid dude, hits hard. I've stood and talked to him. I even shook his hand at the Super Bowl this year. Yeah, I think he could do some serious damage. I'd want him, behind me or really in front of me in a bar fight.
Yeah. He's a very good choice. I'm going to go with Trey Smith, who I feel like is about the nicest guy you can ever meet, but also probably could crush a human being like an empty Coke can if you really wanted to. So I'm going to go with Trey Smith, who is awesome dude, but also just massive. I think
Yes.
it's probably going to deter most people from fighting you at the bar.
Yeah, that's one for me as well. Trey Smith, 6'6", 321 pounds.
That'll do it.
Moves men around the football field like they're toddlers. Yeah, I I would want him as well. I got a couple honorable mentions for me I want to throw out too that aren't going to make my list. Carson Steele. I don't know if you've seen that guy without a shirt on, but if somebody, I think if somebody tried to punch him literally anywhere on his body other than his face, they'd break their hand immediately. The dude is all muscle. I throw an Ethan Driscoll in there. Dude, I interviewed Ethan Driscoll at opening night, 6'8". I was just like, what in God's name? This guy's enormous. So definitely him. And then I'm throwing in there Gardner Minshew. Because of all the people on the team, as an honorable mention, Gardner Minshew could be a guy who may just de-escalate the whole thing. Right? Like it's about to go down. Sure. You got Trey standing there and Leo, and they're ready to throw down. And then Gardner Minshew comes up and like buys a round of tequila shots for everybody and like starts playing guitar or something. And then all of a sudden, we're friends for the rest of the night. So, but give me your number 2.
Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Who again is like the nicest guy in the world, but also again, kind of like Trey Smith. Like I'm feeling like Chris Jones probably handles himself at a bar. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah.
Since we're throwing an honorable mention, I'll throw one out there. Brian Cook is built like a linebacker. Yeah. I wouldn't be too scared of most people with Brian Cook hanging out at the bar. So I'll throw him out as an honorable mention.
Yeah. Very good. Before we get to our number ones, let's get to the chat for some of these. Alan F says, give me Chris Jones, Trey Smith, and Leo Chanel. Very good group. Jeremy says Chris Jones, Trey Smith, and Kingsley. Kingsley's a big boy as well.
Yeah.
Good call. Jack says in a fight, Chris Jones. Yeah, I mean, Chris Jones, man, like they try to double team him and they can't stop. Like grown NFL linemen try to double team Chris Jones. They can't stop him from getting to the quarterback. So he'd probably be pretty good in a fight. Angry Junkie German has a good one who I consider Big Mike Pennell. Guy's got freak strength. Absolutely. Slam and Sammy Joe went old school. Willie Lanier. Yep. Derek Thomas and Buck Buchanan. That would be
Buck Buchanan's a good choice.
Yeah. Very good one. And he says back in the day, Todd Collins was known to throw hands during training camp. Evan says Jones, Smith, and Humphrey. Yeah, I love it. Number 1 for me, Verderame, is going to be Creed Humphrey. He's another guy that like everything about Creed Humphrey screams, I'm going to be in the bar. And if there's a fight in the bar, I'm going to be regulating things. So give me Creed Humphrey.
Yeah, look, I thought about Creed. Chanel could have made it. For me, though, Mike Pennell's number 1. Mike Pennell is the biggest dude I've ever interviewed in my life.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed a lot of guys in the NFL. Mike Pennell, I'm 6'2", 230. If Mike Pennell hit me, he'd kill me. It would be like if I hit like a 4-year-old. He is the biggest guy. And another guy, honestly, in my experience, like super nice, like couldn't be nicer. That guy is enormous. I mean, you know how strong you've got to be to throw Trent Williams. Yeah. Trent Williams' nickname is Silverback, for God's sakes. And Mike Pennell's like, that's fine, and just launched him. I mean, there is I couldn't throw Trent Williams if he was sleepwalking and I had like a full head of steam. There's no way in hell. Like to take a guy that big and just truck him in the Super Bowl. No, I'll take Mike. Mike Pennell all day long. If I had to hire one person as a bodyguard, it's Big Mike.
Yeah. Another big one here, Jeremy, Alan Bailey. Remember Alan Bailey?
Alan Bailey's a good one. Alan Bailey's huge.
Yeah. And you and I went a lot for size. David went with Pacheco. We'll keep going until the very end.
That's true. Him.
Yeah. Pacheco would be getting beat down by 4 guys that just keep standing up, get a chair,
And Pacheco's from Jersey, which means at some point he's kind of a maniac. Like like at some point, he's from South Jersey. There's some anger there just from being from Jersey. So neither one of us said like Mahomes or Kelsey. Kelsey, I
Yeah.
feel like in his younger days would have been a wild choice. Like now he's like, I'm not getting into a fight anymore.
Yeah, Kelsey would be the one to start the fight, get the fight started, right? Like he'd
Yeah,
break a
then just
bottle
leave.
over somebody's
Yeah.
head, and Mahomes, like tactically, okay, give me a Mahomes. Maybe if we're getting the coaching staff involved, like give me a Steve Spagnuolo for like, okay, how are we going to get out of this when we're hiding behind the bar? Some of those moves would be fun, but that's a fun one, man. That's a really fun one. I like these.
I'll tell you what, he's not on the team anymore. I've gotten to talk to him a few times and met him in Eric Bieniemy would be a choice if he were optional here. Eric Bieniemy is. I don't think Eric Bieniemy is scared of anyone on earth. Yeah. So he'd be a good choice though.
Next time we're gonna have to do former Chiefs that we wouldn't want on our side in a bar fight. I think that could be like for me, number one, Dick Curl. I'm not going into a bar fight with Dick Curl.
I wouldn't.
No, bad idea. Romeo, would you have Romeo in there?
Yeah, he'd be up there. There's a lot of guys in the Chiefs history that I would not want in a bar fight. Maybe I'd get into a bar fight with, given the opportunity. But unfortunately, there's plenty of guys with the Chiefs history. I'd be I don't want that guy anywhere near me during a bar fight.
Yeah. Donald Stevenson, the guys would just run right by him and beat you down.
Well, Donald Stevenson would get involved if the coach was the guy he had to fight. Right. In which case, he's ready to go at a moment's notice.
Yeah. By the way, did you see that interview with Matt Castle recently on a podcast where he was talking about that game where he got into it with Haley and Haley kept benching him?
Yes.
That was an absolute. You guys, I can't remember what podcast that was on, but that was an incredible just listening to him and how
that's
him and
the
Haley
most Chiefs thing. Yeah, pre Mahomes. Oh God, that's the most Chiefs thing ever.
The man, and I like Matt Castle a lot, but the man once punctuated a terrible performance by sitting down on the bench and not being able to put his hat on his head.
Correct.
So that was it. There's no clip that encapsulates that era of Chiefs football more than Castle going to put his hat on forwards. You could see that he changes his mind halfway through and decides to try to put it on backwards. And instead it just falls off the back of his head. And then rather than be embarrassed, he pretends he was just scratching the back of his head. Like that's that whole era of Chiefs football encapsulated in one moment. Absolutely incredible.
People don't remember how badly they sucked until Andy got there, and then obviously subsequently Mahomes and anything else. But oh my God.
Yeah. Thank God for that. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Verderame, you got anything cooking over there at Sports Illustrated that people should check out?
Yeah. So I've got a lot of crap going on actually. So let's see here. Next week, we've actually, so tomorrow coming out, I got the biggest draft bust ever for every team. It's just kind of just a fun trip down memory lane, except for the guys I picked. There's a piece out today. I did a mock draft of the first round, but every pick was traded. So
fun.
It was chaos. Yeah, it was fun. It was just kind of a chaotic piece. But Wednesday is something I worked a long time on. Hopefully people enjoy it. So what I did, I called it the ultimate mock draft. 7 rounds, 224 selections, 32 rounds, 32 picks a round. None of this compensatory bullshit. And I did it for the best choice at every pick in the history of the NFL draft. So for an example, like Tom Brady is pick number 199 because that's where he actually went. So it's like the best player ever chosen at every pick in the draft from 1967 when it became the common era to now. And I went through every single pick in the history of the NFL draft. I'm like, this is the best guy at 1. This is the best guy at 10. You might be able to guess who the best guy at 10 is. This is the best guy at 30. This is the best guy at 105. Like, it was a lot of fun. And I will tell you, there are a handful of Chiefs who made the list. Some you might be able to guess, some maybe not so much. But the Chiefs are actually fairly well represented. They've done pretty well for themselves over the years, especially like value picks.
Yeah, you've told us about that before. I'm really looking forward to that. Make sure to check it out on Wednesday. Over at si.com. Before we go, just one more honorable mention for an old school guy I'd want my side in a bar fight. I'm going to go with Big Sean Smith. I'm not going to say why, but because he fights dirty. If you know,
yes, he does.
We'll see you guys We'll see you guys next week for our regular slate of shows. Make sure you're over at arrowheadaddict.com. Matt Connor, our draft expert, Price Carter. You've got to be on arrowheadaddict.com right now, getting prepped, getting ready for the draft. And of course, we'll be back here next week with our regular slate of shows, starting with the intangibles on Monday. For SI's Matt Verderame, my name is Patrick Allen. Thank you to producer Richard and all of our members. We'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.